I hope the audio is better today. Now, I checked it beginning of last stream. It sounded good to me. It still sounds good to me today. I adjusted some of the gain on my my switch or whatever you want to call it. What's up, Mickey? So if the audio is not great, let me know, but there's not much else I can do. I think part of it is OBS plus Restream plus YouTube. There's like a loss in quality, clarity, something going on there, but we'll get started here in a few minutes. Joey's here, Blake's here. Sounds good. Volume much better. Okay, good. Growing some bananas. Is this the banana zone? Is that what that's a reference to? If anybody wants me to look at anything, let me know. We'll take a look at it all. We'll take a look at alts. Alts are waking up, getting off the mat, as they say. One that comes to mind immediately is Cardano, of all things. I think it was up 10% today. Things are happening. Things are happening. People are already freaking out about, I guess they're worried about buying the top. I don't know. It's like, guys, we've been marinating in our own juices here for 6 months, and we broke out, and it's an all-time high. That's outside of everything else going on externally. So it's hard for me to be bearish here. It's just hard for me to be bearish. Not because I wanted it to break out, not because I'm positioned for it to break out, but because the expectation all along was the technical suggests continuation. And this is it. This is what continuation looks like. Ken, big fan of his own juices. We got the video working today. We are absolutely, yeah. Andre, I gotta get started. I gotta warmed up. This is my first time talking to anybody today. I gotta warm up the chords, you know. All-time highs. All-time highs aren't bearish. I don't know who needs to hear that, but they're not bearish. They're definitely not bearish. Let's just start there. Again, I stressed this for at least 2 weeks, if not 2 months. But you need to have a plan for you. You need to have a plan, because I can't tell you what to do. This is not financial advice. I can tell you what I do, and I've done that. Sitting through this for a few cycles has allowed me to map out a better plan. If this is your first cycle, you might be freaking out a little bit, but look, we've seen this before. When this starts to run, it doesn't tend to stop. The thing people always bring forth is, well, what if it stops this time? Okay, like I can't cross the street thinking, man, what if that car doesn't stop? What if that car just keeps going? Otherwise you're not going to cross any street at all. That's kind of a risk analogy, risk conversation. But when we get cooking on the weekly, okay, I know what to do. It's hopefully I'm fully long. Hopefully I am deployed, ready to go, and I certainly am. We're breaking all-time highs. That's not bearish. That's going to bring in people who have looked at this for 6 months, for 6 years, whatever. They're going to start considering getting off of zero. They're going to start considering adding more. People are going to be talking about it. There's going to be media about this. So again, like I don't know what to tell people, because I think part of it is like they're so focused on like the 15-minute chart. It's like, okay, fine. You have a short-term view. I have nothing wrong with that. But you absolutely need this investor view. You need this, where do I think the puck is going view? Because otherwise you are just going to get completely bogged down on the wrong stuff. We had a binary event. It was the US election. It broke a certain way for us. The expectation of that break after the result was what we are seeing now. I don't know what else to say. Now, I didn't think that Trump would win by as wide of a margin as he did. At this point, maybe the only reason that's relevant is because if he gets both the House and the Senate, then we get all sorts of changes, good and bad. But behind him are very pro-Bitcoin people, first and foremost, along with pro-digital assets people. So when we look back at this list, do we think liquidity is getting better or worse? And you got to think of Trump, the person, and what he's done. Okay, for the government, previous, right? We think a recession's coming. Let's play a game. Do you think Trump's gonna say, yeah, no, don't print money, don't save the market, let the market crash? Do you think is that what Trump's gonna do? We're not talking about what's right and wrong here. We're talking about what do we think Trump is going to do in this situation? I think he's gonna bail out anything he can, 100%, right? So yeah, we can talk about recession. We can talk about the yield curve, which is uninverting. That's going to have to be dealt with eventually. But when we go down this list, liquidity better, getting better, that's a tailwind. Rates are coming down still. If he doesn't like what Powell's doing, he's going to fire him. If he doesn't like what Powell's doing, he's going to install a Fed, shadow Fed. If he doesn't like what Powell's doing, he's going to have Congress change the law, right? Like there is no obstacle anymore. There is no obstacle. So yes, we can say, is the easing cycle right or wrong? It might be wrong. It might end up being wrong. It might end up being very wrong. We might see hikes in 2025. I doubt it. Again, you got to think of less about what like should happen and maybe more about what do we think is going to happen in this administration. Do you think we're gonna stop an easing cycle? Trump wants rates to zero. I mean, we're not going to zero, but rates aren't going to keep going up. Okay. That's my expectation. Now that might not be reality. I'm trading on what do I think is going to happen, right? So rates coming down are a tailwind. Dollar strength is an odd one. I should probably write on this. Dollar strength. So do we have to worry about liquidity? Not really. I don't think so. I mean, again, if there's ever an issue, what is Trump going to do? Print money. What is China doing right now? Printing money. They keep printing money. They keep throwing money at the wall. Nothing's sticking yet. They're going to keep printing money. Okay, that's all they know how to do. Just print more money. Print. Hit the print button. Great. Rates down. Awesome. Great. Love it. Dollar strength. Now, he says he wants the dollar weaker. The dollar is getting stronger on tariff expectations. BTC doesn't seem to care. And that just tells you how strong this regulatory and tax risk was for assets, let's just say. Because clearly we have a tailwind. Whether or not we see a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I don't know. But we're certainly not going to be as hostile as a government to digital assets. That is 100% factual. Regardless of your feelings on Orange Man, that's going to happen. We're already starting to see geopolitical risk come down because people are coming to the table saying, okay, we're gonna negotiate. We're most likely giving less money to Ukraine, if anything at all. So to me, that is a decrease of geopolitical risk, which is a tailwind. And that just means we're good. I don't know what to tell you. Like, real assets are great. I'm not talking about Main Street. Main Street, not looking so hot, but the stock market loves it. Capitalism loves it. Laissez-faire economics, deregulation, loves it. Technicals for BTC, I can't find a single bearish technical. We'll talk about some low time frame stuff. There's maybe like bear div on the weekly or the daily. Like there's some stuff you can nitpick. But again, we just broke all-time highs. We're hitting all-time highs as I'm speaking to you right now. We just hit 77. Like, what else do you want? Like, what else do you want? Momentum very clearly is different than it was in the past 6 months. Inflows, record inflows yesterday. Again, you can say, well, this is the basis trade. This is people selling. This is just degen money. You know, you can pick any one of these points apart. But the reality is we are seeing record inflows. Record. Again, what was the event? What was the outcome? What was the market expectation? Is this a failed news event? It is the opposite of a failed news event. We see everybody getting back in the pool, ready for more. S&P's hitting all-time highs. Qs are hitting all-time highs. Main Street attention is going to tick up because of all-time highs. Crypto products. Here's a question. Let me ask chat. Do you think we're going to get more or fewer digital asset products, crypto products? More IPOs next year or less IPOs in the crypto realm? I have zero knowledge. Kraken is a sponsor of this channel. But I'd imagine businesses like Kraken are discussing IPO plans. They're certainly discussing more products for the US. Okay? So is that a tailwind for digital assets or a headwind? I think it's a tailwind. There's a point where the market gets saturated and we have 5,000 DeFi coins. I don't think we're there yet on the crypto products. We don't even have options yet for the ETFs. So yeah, of course we're going to have more. Of course. Of course we're going to have more. And then the outflows and the unlocks. We talked about this last week, but yes, Gox has what, 2 billion? It's like 2.2 billion or something. US government has 15 billion. I haven't seen the COT data, the commitment of traders data last week or this week yet, but I'd imagine miners are selling less. We can look at that. I can try to pull something up. It's just very hard to really nail down what the miners are doing at any given time because they could be doing some sort of multi-asset strategy. But we can always look at miner wallets. CryptoQuant has a good. Let me just see if I can pull it up real quick. CryptoQuant has a miner flows. It's just you have to be sure that the wallets are labeled correctly, and I'm not saying that that's not the case. It's just difficult. Miner reserve. What does the miner reserve look like? So miners were selling into strength, which I think a lot of people caught on to that in 2023. So as price was rising in 2023, throughout 2023, miners were actually selling. Miners sold a ton into 2024. By sold, I just mean in the mining labeled wallets, those values declined. They went down. So they could be buying ETFs, they could be hedging, right? They could do a bunch of other stuff. I'd say the rate of change pre-ETFs on the miner wallets was, X, and then it ramped up a lot into 2024. And now currently as we're sitting here, again, assuming all of this is correct, miner wallets to me, can we see that? No, we can't because my head's in the way. Miner wallets to me have sort of bottomed out. Can I move? There we go. Let me move my hodl. Miner wallets have bottomed out. You can also look at outflows. Outflows, again, this is like, it's hard because you don't know exactly what they're doing, all these miners. The outflows look like they were decreasing throughout 2024, upticking now at highs. I don't know, but it's generally a good idea just to see like, okay, what are the natural sellers, what are they doing? Are they selling a lot here or are they holding, right? Based on on-chain data, not just the publicly listed miners. But anyway, so mining wallets reserves look like they flattened out. Anyway, and onto the ETFs. ETFs have just exploded in inflows yesterday, record day. This is Q3 and Q4. If we look at weekly, we don't have Friday's data in today yet, but it's going to be a pretty good week is my guess. If we look at all the data, this is the highest day, or yesterday was the highest day ever. You got to remember with the BlackRock ETF, the flows data is a day behind. So yesterday's number was actually for the day before. That's just how they report it. That's how they do their flows. Net flows looks like it hit a new all-time high. Yeah, just making sure. 26 billion, something like that. So it would be one thing if we broke all-time highs, there was no volume, nobody cared, we didn't have any products that existed, we had no products coming, everybody was selling. That's not what we see here. So I'm happy to discuss bearish arguments. But from a macro and crypto landscape, what is there to be bearish about? What is there to be bearish about? I don't know. For ETH, this is the ETH ETFs. They've been lethargic, basically dead. That's going to change once price picks up. It doesn't look like anybody wants to be super brave and get in first, other than the Michigan pension fund, which is wild that they bought ETH. They have BTC, they bought ETH. They bought more ETH than BTC. Looking at the cumulative data since launch, it's still deeply negative, almost around 500 million. This is going to be, to me, an interesting graph to watch. Where does this actually flip net positive? And then how far does it run? Because right now it's pretty abysmal. Maybe this is a little inverted head and shoulders down here. Weekly also flat, right? This is more of a alt conversation. We'll talk about ETH today, but ETH is above the daily cloud for the first time in a long time. It's above the 200-day moving average for the first time in a long time. I think people see huge candles and they're like, okay, I gotta wait for the pullback. Yeah, sure. Some of your capital, you can wait for the pullback. Some of it, okay, this is this is your confirmation. I was talking about ETH potentially breaking down. I was talking about ETH potentially breaking down, and that's basically the Harris win is ETH to 15. ETH going home, as Ben would say, below 2K. That's what this measures if this breaks down. We didn't get that, right? We did not get that. We got the opposite. So now it measures, these measurements are always there. It's just, is there a bias in the chart pattern? And then what does the breakout look like? So the bias, I initially had thought this was an inverted head and shoulders, then it failed, right? But anyway, this broke out above the cloud, above the 200. I'd expect at least 30, we'll say 3,300 by December. I don't know. At least 3,000, definitely. Now it's going to have a hell of a time fighting through all this stuff up here. Looks like the point of control is 3,500. But yeah, it's bullish. It looks good. It broke out. Teleport Lab says he loves the Michigan pension fund. It's interesting to see all the people crying. These aren't traders. These are ETH people crying that, ETH should be X, but it's Y. What's going on? And now all these people feel vindicated that ETH is finally turning around, when in reality they have lost 50% of their purchasing power because, of course, ETH BTC has just been down only for 2 years, right? Okay, fine. Whatever. I don't care. It's going up now, right? One thing I mentioned on Twitter was this. This was before the breakout. Not that I'm patting myself on the back, but it did help influence some trades of mine. you're getting, or you had a bullish divergence play out, right? Is this bullish on trend? No, this is ETH BTC. Is it bullish on the daily, the weekly, any time frame you want to pick? No, it is not bullish, okay? It is trying to find the bottom. It looks good. It looks good, but people have told you that it's the bottom every tick lower for 2 years, right? So yeah, it looks good. It makes sense. Again, we have regulatory clarity. We have a different administration who's going to be less hostile to digital assets. That should be beneficial to ETH. We should see people coming in with capital saying, okay, this makes a little more sense now. So you have that on your side, for sure. Absolutely, right? But yes, it is so deeply bearish, it's going to have a long time before it gets up to bullishness on the weekly. In 2019, it took a whole year. So just because it's outperforming this week, maybe next week, doesn't mean it's going to be like a clean ride back to 06 or whatever, right? I wouldn't necessarily expect that. But yeah, it looks good. It's looked the best it's looked. Alts look very good because BTC looks very good, right? We finally got an answer on BTC. Anyway, another thing about ETH, Josh Lim, he's an options god. He posted about the ETH BTC ratio. Let me move my head. He posted about the ETH BTC ratio in options volume, and he was noticing this pickup on the option side. Always a good sign. Volume up is a great sign for anything, especially in crypto. That's why we're looking at flows, right? Are flows going to wake up here? What level do flows wake up for ETH, if at all? 3K, 4K, 5K? What's the all-time high for ETH even? It's like, what, 42 or something? Sorry, 48? 48, whatever. You know, where do the flows kick in for ETH? My guess is probably 4K. That's my guess. All right, so that's ETH. Back to BTC, the cycle charts. I talked about this stuff for weeks. Many people have talked about this stuff for weeks. Of course, we hope this is going to happen. But at the same time, we use the past to help us try to decide the future. If it looks like the past, as a human, we assume it's going to look like the future. Things tend to repeat. They tend to rhyme. That's why we talked about this. So this is all of the cycles we've seen stacked up on one another. And we're still underperforming 2016, 2018. We're still underperforming. Now it looks very similar, but we're underperforming. So that, again, just goes to show you people like freaking out about, buying the top. I'm so worried about buying the top. Do you see the potential upside here? Again, I don't know where this goes. Maybe it stops at 10. Maybe it stops at 9. I don't know. But if it goes to 100 from here and it's at 5, okay, 4.5. Are you going to be kicking yourself saying, man, do you remember when I sold or didn't buy at 70 because I thought it was blah, 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 and then 77 and whatever? This is why we look at this stuff, right? And this is relative to halving. Black line is this cycle is today, and we are underperforming every single period on halving so far. So if at all we catch up to any of the other halving periods, that is a pretty wide margin of upside. I'm not saying we're going to have the best post-halving performance ever. I'm not saying we have to catch up. This is just looking at what has happened and what may happen. That's it. Is this closer to the bottom or the ceiling? The floor or the ceiling, bottom or the top? It looks good. It looks really good. If we're at 77 and we're still underperforming every post-halving period, we're still underperforming every cycle low comparison. Like, yeah, this looks good. Okay. You know, next question. There's not a lot to discuss there. It's like, if this looked at like we were at the ceiling, I'd say, oh, I don't know, guys. Be careful. Be careful. MVRV is another one. It's at 2.5, not even 2.3. You could just think of this as unrealized profit in the system. When was the last time coins were moved on chain? If those coins haven't been moved in a very long time and they have this unrealized profit, unrealized gain built into them, that's when this starts to look toppy. We're not there yet. There's nothing else to say. You know, it's at 2.8. Are we going to see diminishing returns? This is another one people talk about a lot. Sure. Okay, fine. We go to 6, we go to 4 instead of 7 or 8 or 10. We're at 2.25, right? Like, that's, you know, what's the risk reward on that? You tell me. I don't know. I just don't know what to say to people. We of course have the power law, and the most common thing people say is, well, last cycle we didn't get anywhere close. We didn't get anywhere close. Objectively true. We of course had SBF selling. That's the retort from me. But at the same time, look at where we are now on this model. Look at where we ended up even last cycle, which wasn't even best case. So the equivalent from here, based on where we ended up last cycle, is probably like 175 or higher. You know, it takes time to get there. So maybe closer to 200. And that's if we're like last cycle. If we're like the other cycles we've seen, we're talking even higher than 333, which is absurd to think about. So again, I say, are we closer to the ceiling or the floor? Are we even past the midpoint? No, we're closer to the floor. We're not past the midpoint. This actually gets much harder. Let's say we go to 125. The risk reward profile changes and it gets harder. This is, to me, a no-brainer, easy spot to add because of the risk reward profile. You can also look at the cup and handle. It's a new all-time high, obviously, but it's the first time we've been above the weekly cup and handle, right? Now, yeah, we have 2 days to close. Are we going to close higher or lower in the next 2 days? My guess is we'll be higher than last week, right? Yeah, Mr. Hellings, we could overshoot that, right? Now, I doubt we're going to overshoot the power law, to be fair. The ceiling, I'll say this more clearly. I doubt we overshoot the ceiling of the power law. So let's say we, what is this, 2026? The top of the ceiling for the power law in 2026, the last day of 2026 is 500K. I don't think we get to 500K, personally. Not by 2026. Now there are some ways we could get to 500K, but you know, strategic Bitcoin reserve, sailor buying, more sailors buying, more companies buying for treasury, global reserve status. I think that's a bit too soon to expect that, but yes, it is within the model for that to happen. Sure. If you want to use that as your risk reward profile, yeah. You know, what's your downside here? You could say your stop loss is 50K and your top side is 300 something. Okay. What's the math on that? That's like a 6x. So yeah, right. The macro cup and handle. I should do a video on this week because again, it's like people are like, oh man, I don't know. I don't know, guys. Are we going up or down? I don't know. Again, people are just worried. It's a VAT from Twitter. People are just worried that they're going to buy the top. You know, you can't really trade like that. You really can't. You have to look at what has happened previously. What do we know about TA? What do we know about fundamentals? What do we know about on-chain activity? And do the best you can with no guarantees. So yeah, is this going to go to 175? It could. And we're going to look back at this in a year from now and say, man, it went to 175. Crazy, right? That's just the expected move. That's just the expected move. And the thing is, it's not just BTC. We saw this first on the S&P. We saw this first on the S&P. Do you know how crazy 6,000 sounded when we broke out at 4,600? That sounded insane. We're here now and it still sounds insane. So yes, these things happen. Do you know how crazy 300 on SMH sounded at 150? We're there. Where we got there. Do you know how silly 150 on IGV sounds, which is the software? Like, again, we can go over and over and over again. There's just been so much of this lately. SPY is another, or sorry, QQQ. QQQ is another one. We're there. We're in the wheelhouse. This was the call of the technicals at 385. This is the equivalent, by the way, just for people who are playing the home game. We are right here on BTC, right here. This is it. That's where we're at on every one of these charts. We just broke out. This is confirmation. I don't really care about volume. I don't really care about open interest. I don't really care about funding. All that stuff looks fine to me here. I most care about what does the breakout look like. It looks great. It's beautiful. It's the biggest, boldest breakout you've ever seen. Okay, that's a terrible Trump impression. So I don't know what there is to worry about. You know, back to that conversation. And obviously, of course, many people have talked about gold. Guess what? Guess where Bitcoin is on the gold equivalent? It is right here. It just broke out, right? Gold still has tons of room. Tons of room. We are living through it, Arctic, I agree. So, to me, you have plenty of ammo to say, yeah, I'm pretty confident this is going to go higher. I'm pretty confident this is going to go higher. Pretty confident. Certainly by the end of the year, I think we're higher. We closed the year higher than where we are now. 100%. All right, let me catch up with chat. Nice hat, thank you. It is cold, Dev. It was like 75 here yesterday. Now it's cold. What's up? Ro Jogan is here. Yeah, we're gonna get so many products. So many products. Geopolitical risk hasn't decreased. The new admin wants to sanction Iran's oil. The new admin also wants to just drill till there's no oil left in the United States. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. We can look at oil. Oil, by the way, pretty angry. Man, why would oil be angry? Well, we could say this is China growth expectations. This is global growth expectations. The doomer bears are going to tell you that it's pricing in a recession. I'm just going to tell you it's been bearish for a while, and the U.S. produces more oil. They pull more Dino T out of the ground than they've ever pulled out of the ground before. Makes sense. Price is lower. Okay. I wouldn't say ETH got inflows. You know, this is honestly pathetic when you look at it relative to BTC. Now, BTC has had a lot more press around what it is over the years, and it's had more time to build. You know, it's like Trump versus Harris, right? Like Harris kind of had 100 days in front of the United States to make her case, whereas Trump's been around for a long time. He's been around since, what, the 80s? People know who he is. Anyway. The flows here, which is generous, the inflows, have been pretty pathetic on ETH so far. But that's going to change if price starts to pick up. Bit of a pullback and a reload. Yeah, we can look at the one thing I was watching. I gotta find a chart where I can draw. The one thing I was watching was this. Where can I draw? I need a chart to draw. That's probably it right there. There was this possibility. This would classify as an ascending, broadening wedge. Now we've seen quite a few of these wedges, broadening wedges lately. I'm not a fan because you're always guessing and you're always looking at stuff like this thinking, okay, yeah, we could break out or we could go back to 70. Like, yeah, and that's a 10% correction. So it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I got to trade the chart that's in front of me, and we're breaking out on the weekly. You know, the weekly looks amazing. The 4 hour looks probably you got a bear div here. You're certainly overbought, but got to pick your battles, right? So maybe this allows you to say maybe we test 74. Maybe you put bids below 74. I don't know, right? It depends on how you want to trade that. Depends on your total allocation, I guess. But there's that. You know, we had one of these over here. This was before we sold off. So we have seen these before. I think the difference between then and now is we have other stuff besides the technicals, but if we do break down, I'm going to point to this and say, yeah, I saw that. We talked about it. It's there. If you're a day trader, you're probably paying more attention to this. If you're an investor or a swing trader, you're probably paying more attention to the daily, the weekly, that sort of thing. We also had one of these. We actually had one of these like back here as well. It's just, they're very difficult to know where they're going to break. Right? And what did we do here? What did I do right here? I just watched the fractals. What did the fractals tell you? The fractals told you not to get out, stay in. So that's what I did. Up here currently, the fractals giving you no indication of getting out of anything. Nothing. And the other one I remember that looked like this was SVB down here. This, again, these are not fun. I do not wish these to show up on the chart because when they break down, it always feels like, you know, when they fill in the triangle or the wedge, it always feels like, all right, that's it. We're going lower, right? Like this was SVB blowing up. This was March 23. I think we tapped. Did we tap the 200 day? Yeah, so we tapped to the 200 day. And that was the day SVB blew up. And it was like, okay, what are we going to do? You know, we can draw the lines and we can say we know what the wedges are and what happens, but it still has to bounce. It did because they bailed out SVB. But yeah, these wedges are not fun. So a scenario in which I could imagine price getting angry is Mt. Gox starting to sell, the US government starting to move coins. The market's not going to like that. Is it going to matter in the long term? No, it's not going to matter at all. But looking at this, yeah, that's how I can see a path that this starts to break down. Lots of people said tons more products. I agree. More. I agree. There's going to be such a flood of fraud and scams. On the crypto side, on the regulatory side, I don't think so. On like the crypto native side, there's going to be similar to what we've seen in 2017 and 2021. You know, we saw lots of stuff. I'll keep it at that. We saw lots of stuff. CZ just tweeted just the beginning. Yeah. Cointelegraph cited me. Let's go. I don't know in what, but cool. Josh is back. Josh is back. 3,000. Yeah, Dev. I mean, ETH. How this works is you have a trend. What was the previous trend? The previous trend was bearish. You reconsolidated at 2,500 to 28. What's the answer here? The answer is reversal from the bear trend. And so if we get bullish continuation beyond 3,500, we could see whatever, right? You know, if we can measure this in a few different ways. ETH has its own cup and handle possibility. We'll be conservative. We'll say, I don't know, whatever, measure it from there. Do I think ETH is going to go to 20,000? I don't think so. But it is a favorable risk reward. We could say 10,000 I think is reasonable. I think 8,000 is reasonable. But it's, well, you know, that's something you talk about at 4,000. Let's get to 4,000 first. Let's get some flows first. Let's see what that looks like. Excuse me. Let's see what that looks like. But yeah, that could go higher. We haven't mentioned Sol at all. Sol also right there at all-time highs-ish. 262 looks to be the all-time high, but this also has a cup and handle. You know, we're in the early stages of something. So if you like ETH, if you like Sol, if you like BTC, if you like the majors, they all look good. If you like, you know, we can measure this. Whatever bottom you want to pick there. There's tons of upside. I think 1,000 on Sol makes sense. I think 10,000 on ETH potentially. We'll see. So that's a 5x from here on Sol. That's a 3x on ETH. BTC is what? You know, it depends. BTC to what's your target? 100, 250, 300. If we get these stretch targets, these like bullish targets on BTC to like 300,000, yeah, Sol's gonna push past 1,000 probably. ETH is gonna push past 10 probably. You know, that's not really a function of ETH or Sol. It's more a function of what is the ratio between BTC and the rest of everything else. Mr. Helling sold 70 coins at 5K. Yeah, I mean, you have to have allocation buckets, long-term view, short-term view, medium-term view, trade whatever you want, but you have to have all of that laid out because you do not want to be gambling every position, gambling full size every position with every idea you come across, right? I think it might go higher in MBRV as the ETFs will hold forever. The thing about the ETFs is they will rebalance at some point. So how this works in a traditional portfolio is you say you want a 3% allocation in your portfolio. People are experiencing this now with tech, or they have experienced it with tech. They say, I want X percentage of allocation, right? If that allocation exceeds the initial target by, I don't know, 2x, 3x, whatever, right? People sell. So that's how we're going to get selling out of the ETFs. Look at Warren Buffett and his Apple position. Is he selling for a rainy day, or is he selling because he's worried about concentration in the portfolio and he made tons of money on Apple, you know? I think it's more of the latter, personally. So if there is a massive out of whack imbalance in a portfolio, it will get rebalanced, typically quarterly, probably yearly at the very longest. So if they just bought this year, my guesses would be 2026 is when the rebalances would happen, at like end of year or quarterly. So we'll see what that looks like quarter to quarter. Just reading chat. On-chain data. Yeah, I think in general I agree. People always like to compare, just like the OI conversation or any of these cycle conversations. Price is the purest way to look at the past. On-chain wise, things have changed. We have L2s now. We have ETFs now. We have tons of disruption in what on-chain used to be for BTC, for ETH. So it's harder to say, like, you know, where's an on-chain chart? It's harder to say exactly what MVRV could reach because the on-chain picture is going to be a little different. I still think it's going to be about right. I think you're going to see outflows from the ETFs, and that will be the top. That's how we know it's the top. You know, if we have just billions coming out of the ETFs, that's probably not going to be bullish, if I had to guess. People are sneeds? I don't know what that means. Sneeds love to think they're smart, want to counter trade everything. I guess, yeah. Berg, the one Cardano enjoyer, ER Berg, he is happy on this day for Cardano is up instead of down. How to time the exit? I don't want to end up in the blow off top. Well, we go back to this. I've done a couple of videos on this, but having an exit plan kind of requires a long-term view. So I would establish that first and foremost. Do you want to sell at a 2x? Depending on your entry, depending on your cost basis, is that important to you? Do you want to sell based on a TA target? Do you want to sell based on a blend of on-chain TA and cost basis? You know, I don't know, right? So for me, I'm still buying. I've been buying ever since we started breaking out. So I'm not going to be a seller here if I'm buying. Why am I buying here? Because of the risk reward profile. That's it, right? So what do I like long term? I like round numbers, 150, 200, 250, 300. I like multiples. So multiples from 70 would be, you know, we could do this. We could say 140. We could say 210. Right, those would be multiples of where we broke out from. You could say 280, right? And the trick is you're not selling, not financial advice. I don't want somebody to come to me in 2026 and be like, you said I should sell everything at 325 and we only got to 310 and now my wife divorced me and I don't have a house. That's not what this is about. Have a plan, have a long-term plan, long-term targets, stick to it. You know, you don't have to sell everything at 140. You say, I'm going to sell a little at 140. I'm going to sell 2% at 140. I'm going to sell 5%. It doesn't have to be a lot. But if you want to get out slowly, this is what you do. And it doesn't have to be close either. Like, you know, you could say, I'm going to sell at 140, 165, whatever you want, 169, 420, some meme target. Fine, right? That's how you plan out an exit. If you don't sell everything at the top, you can just use a stop loss. What do I love as a stop loss? The 20-week moving average. 20-week moving average has been excellent. We broke out on B-bands, by the way. So I can turn those off because B-bands are another coin flip type technical for me, but anyway, you use the 20-week moving average, this green line. This is your stop loss. Back test it, right? What happened last cycle? We broke the 20-week back here, and that was kind of the top. Did you get the exact top? No. Did the market chart try to pull you back in? Yeah, it did. It tried to pull a lot of people back in, including me. I certainly bought down here at like 45 or something. But the amount that I sold, because we broke the cloud, ultimately that's why I sold on the daily. I did not put that back in the market. That was gone. That was out of the market. And that's the other part of the plan you have to establish with yourself is, if I sell at 140 and we go to 165, I'm not going to have a seller's remorse and be all upset, right? If your plan is to edge out of the market, this is what you got to do. You got to say, okay, I'm going to sell 10% here, 10% there, 10% there, whatever. Those are like the DCA exits, right? That's fine. Have this plan where you have a DCA exit. You have your pie in the sky exit. You've got your technical stop losses. I like the 20-week moving average. I like the fractals, the Williams fractals on the daily. Those have been good. It's just I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I do, right? Even the fractals on the weekly, like, you know, let's say you don't like the daily, just use the fractals on the weekly. Look at the fractals on the weekly in 2021. Not a single stop loss fractal until the very top. Okay, that's an N of 1. Let's check. How did it work in 2016? It was a little noisier on the weekly. Certainly noisier. It pulls you out. No, technically it doesn't pull you out there. It does pull you out here. And then it pulls you out at the very top-ish after things come down. Stop losses are not going to tell you the exact top, but they're going to get you out at a good time. Now you can use the fractals with the trailing stop losses together. If I can find the B-bands. So you just have to assign a percentage. You say, okay, if we trip a trailing stop loss, I'm going to close 25%, no matter what. And then if we close below the weekly 20-week, I close another 25%. You know, something like that. In 2016 and 2017, this is when I first was looking at the 20-week moving average and was saying, wow, this looks like somebody drew a support after the fact, right? But it obeyed that level. 2013, 2014, 2012, same thing. We're bearish below, we're bullish above. So we've been bullish for a couple weeks now, above the 20-week. So that's a great stop loss. So no, I'm not concerned with the rising channel. Thanks for the hot dog with ketchup. Anyway, that's 50 minutes on BTC. We should probably move on. I think it looks great. I think it looked great. It broke out. All the right stuff happened. Some people like the 1050. I don't know if it's the weekly. I think the weekly 1050 is a little loose. I don't know. So you just kind of have to look for yourself. Maybe the 1020 on the weekly. But I would not use low time frames. If we're talking about cycle targets, you got to bump up the time frame. You got to say, I know this is bullish. You got to give it time. This is going to take some time. People are asking about Link and Sol. So if Sol and ETH are waking up, Sol and ETH beta, Sol and ETH ecosystem should start to wake up, so that those trades should start to work better. Send BTC dominance to 0. Yeah, let's take a look at dominance. I don't think dominance looks at risk here. I don't think it looks bearish. I don't think it looks blow off toppy at all. It's clearly given back a little bit. The daily cloud has been super noisy. 3-day cloud, much better, super clean. It's overbought. Dominance is overbought, which just means alts are oversold. Obviously, ETH being the best example of that. But if I gave you this chart without knowing what it is, you would say, I'd imagine, this looks overbought. It's pulling back, but the trend is still bullish. So that's true. That's just objectively true. So as BTC mean reverts on dominance, alts should be strong, which is what is happening. That's what we're seeing, right? That doesn't mean for the next 12 months, BTC isn't going to outperform. It just means it's a give and take, right? BTC broke out, pulled way up. Dominance hit 60. Dominance could go back to 57 and then keep going, right? We've seen that how many times over the past 2 years? So I wouldn't just say, oh man, dominance is over. It's going to zero. This is it, boys. It's the top. I don't think we're quite there yet. I sold a small position that I used to mess around short term. Yeah, that's the thing. Save yourself from yourself. Put coins elsewhere where you can't touch them. You know, play around with, I did this, I talked about this sports betting analogy. I can't imagine sports betting your retirement fund on a single play of a game, okay? Don't do that with BTC. Separate it, segregate it, partition it, whatever the word is, so that you're not always trading the entire stack every time, right? I think that's common sense, but I don't know. Not shorting, just spot selling. We're 5% above all-time high. Yes, I agree. DXY. Can we get a look at INJ? Uni. ETH is bullish. ETH BTC on trend is not bullish. It might be oversold, but yeah. LTC, yeah. Let's do a quick scan of everything with the cloud, and then I'll go over legacy. Have I seen Jack's tweets on Litecoin? I haven't, but I did notice Litecoin's above the cloud, so we'll take a look at that. You never want to be trading your full stack every trade. Thank you. I agree 100%. What's up, Ray? LTC, Doge. That's my other fear with people is like, you know, there's nothing wrong with waiting for BTC to break out. Using BTC as a metric to trade alts is totally fine. But my fear is people are only, you know, they're allergic to BTC. All they care about is everything else, basically, which is fine. But, you know, you really missed out on BTC. Mother so back wrapped Bitcoin. I think the wrapped Bitcoin stuff's a nothing burger, but I don't really use wrapped Bitcoin much. We're going to have so many competitors to stablecoins. There's going to be a bunch of stablecoin legislation. If I had to guess, Tether's going to get kicked out of the United States. That's what they're positioning for. Now, the argument against that is Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick is on the transition team of Trump. Lutnick, Cantor Fitzgerald also oversees the Tether, Tether reserves in some regard. So there's a very positive political influence for Tether at the very top. That's probably going to keep them not ring-fenced out of the United States, you know. So someone's asking about cloud for entries and exits. Why don't I use cloud for exits? I do use cloud for exits. So if we look at BTC, if at all, in 2026, for whatever reason, and we all have 300K targets, 250, whatever, but if at all, BTC looks anything like it did here, I'm out. I'm out with a substantial portion of my trading bucket and probably my hodl bucket. So I'm absolutely looking at that for exits. Sorry, daily. Daily cloud. Daily cloud, not 3-day cloud. It looks basically the same, but it looks much better as an exit. What does this require? This requires us to basically go flat for a couple months. So if we go to 300 and stay flat for whatever magical reason, and we start to get this distribution profile, and we get a bearish TK cross, and we get price in the cloud, yeah, I'm going to get very, very bearish. Very, very bearish. This is not what we want to see for bullish continuation, okay? This is not what we want to see. You do not want to see this. That would be your exit signal. You can also use the fractals, which you can't really see this on Kraken Pro, but we had a bunch of Williams fractals get tripped up here along with the TK cross. So where are we today? We are nowhere near that. We just broke out. We've been above the cloud for 2 months, 1 month, we'll say a month and a couple weeks. It was one of the reasons why we had issues here, right? This is a big warning sign. You shoot first, ask questions later. If we go to 300, if we go to 250, if we go to 150, and we start to close in the cloud, that is not a bullish sign. It's the same thing down here. ETFs, ETF launch, right? What happened? Grayscale unlocked, unloaded billions of USD notional. We stopped, we slowed down, we reaccumulated, chart pattern, right? If this, then that. If we get a bearish TK cross, you should expect bearishness. That's how this works. That's why the cloud is so good at picking up on this stuff. So that would be the exit. Where the cloud isn't good at picking out good exits is something like 2017. 2017, again though, we basically went flat into January from December. So the exit wasn't, what percentage move was this? So you're losing like 30% from the top, okay? But this is not like a nudge on the shoulder that it's over. It's this is over. I hope you're paying attention, okay? You do not want to close in the cloud. Now you could have said that at any point, right? We had this TK recross stuff over and over again. And that's why it's important to understand the possibilities, draw the decision tree. What could we see? What do we want to see if we're bullish versus bearish? We never saw bullishness again after breaking down like that until Q2 2019. That's how clean this was. We were below the cloud the whole time. So anyway, that's what I'm watching for. If we start to get into the cloud, if we start to look like we're consolidating, right, that's what you're looking for. Coin IHS worked out. CleanSpark IHS worked out. CleanSpark, I think, is still halted. They had some clerical problems with grid and the warrant and something else. Doge, ARK BTC. That is an interesting chart. ARK, before we talk about alts, ARK is basically, it's an alt of the legacy world. ARK is run by Cathie Wood. It is, to put it kindly, a pile of highly speculative stuff. So if this looks good, what does that tell you? It tells you that the risk on narrative is here. It tells you that people are ready to learn to love again. They're ready to get burned. This consolidated for 3 years, basically. 3 years. It is now above the weekly cloud. For the first time since 2021. The cloud is telling you Now is the best time to take a stab at this thing since 2021. That's what the cloud is telling you. I have no idea what happens here. We can have our guesses. We can say the measured move is like 75 to 90, whatever. Like we can make stuff up. The TA looks good. I'm not going to argue that. I'm just super biased against what's in this thing. It's it's like biotech and it's Tesla and coin and some crypto stuff, and I feel like I have something in my nose, so I hope I don't have something in my nose. Anyway, ARC BTC though. ARC BTC. I don't know if I've looked at this chart ever. Yeah, it's a good chart. It tells you all you need to know in that ARC isn't really fooling around with. Has ARC ever had a bullish trend against BTC? No, it has not. So this tells me avoid ARC, BTC is the one. You could also just look, if you want to do like IBIT or something, it's going to give you the IBIT data, but that's another way to look at this. But yeah, this is basically alts, right? It's alts against BTC. It's like dash BTC or something. It's just straight down. That new all-time low for dash BTC. BNB. Yeah, before we switch to Kraken, BNB also looks great, right? And again, a lot of stuff's working here. If you're in a pile of junk that isn't working, I would question why it's not working, because this chart looks really good. Looks really, really good. It looks good on the weekly. It looks good on the daily. It hasn't broken out yet, but it looks really good. It looks really good. It's held this level since March, but it looks great. It looks great. Ton is another one. I don't know if that's on my watch list. It doesn't look great, so this is going to be my mantra. What do I want to see here? I basically want to see kind of like AVAX, of all things. I want to see this cloud fractal, just like ARC, right? We just talked about it. You want to see things freshly above the cloud for the first time in a long time. That's a bullish trend reversal. That's what the cloud is telling you. We of course have on AVAX, bottomy chart patterns, however you want to draw this. We had this monster head and shoulders that broke down. We reconsolidated. We're going to try for something great, right? I love taking a stab at stuff like this. So going back to Kraken, BTC is just doing BTC things. Great, awesome. Sol, I think Sol goes higher. It's been above the cloud for a while, right? It held the cloud. It had this inverted head and shoulders here. This pattern, the target, is where we're at right now. Trend-wise, this looks good. The measured move here, take the high, take the low. The breakout level is 270 to 325. Would I trade that on 100x leverage? I would not. Would I be comfortable on 2x leverage? Maybe. 10x? No. This isn't investment advice, but I don't want you to think, oh man, he's bullish Sol, let me just go all in right here. That's not how this works, but yeah, I like higher. ETH, I talked about it, above the cloud, above the 200-day moving average. Freshly, by the way, above the cloud. Looks good. Looks good. 3,000 at least, probably closer to 4. Doge. Now, we talked about Doge. You can look at the old streams, like 2 streams ago, 3 streams ago. There's a reason I'm always talking about the Kumo breakouts. This is the entry. You have to see enough of these over and over again I'm talking to myself here. I had to see this happen over and over, hundreds of these, right? Hundreds, to say, okay, I don't know where this goes, but one thing I do know is when this happens, it's typically pretty good, right? It's typically pretty good. That's all the cloud is telling you. Now's a better time to do anything than previously. That's all it's telling you. And where did this go? Exactly where we measured it to. Do I have a crystal ball? No, I'm just using the technicals, right? So Doge looks good. What would I do here? I don't know. I'm just holding. I'm not doing anything. Weekly just broke out. I think this goes to 50 cents at least. Not tomorrow, not next month. Like a cycle target for this is higher, period. Would I trade this on 100x leverage? No. ADA, here you are. ER Berg, Mr. ER Berg. This one's for you, buddy. ADA finally above the daily cloud. Looks good. For the first time in forever. It's above the 200-day moving average. It looks good. This may go nowhere. This may go flat. We've seen what happens potentially on bullish stuff. But if you want to look at bearish possibilities, let's pull up Pfizer. Again, I don't care what the ticker is. That doesn't matter. We're looking at the cloud fractal. What is the cloud fractal on Pfizer? Down only for a year and a half, breaking out of the cloud. So we are like here. We're like right here on alts right now. There's never a guarantee that this thing just goes to infinity. But it's telling you there is a trend shift. That's what it's telling you. What happened to Pfizer? Not good stuff. I can tell you that much. It's gone lower. Where was your exit here? Anytime you're below the cloud, anytime you get a bearish TK cross. So this is what I would watch for into 2025. Do alts look like this into 2025? That's a bad sign, right? Do alts look like this, or do they look like Doge, where they just send? Another example of this is, I know a lot of people look at metals. This is platinum, palladium. Okay. Similar story. Cloud Fractal was bearish for a very long time, broke out, everybody gets excited. But it didn't go anywhere. It didn't do anything. It just keeps pulling back. This is not working. There's a lot of stuff that's working. This is not working. Another one is TLT. I could do this all day. TLT, high time frames. I was talking about TLT, man. I was easily one of the first people talking about how bullish TLT looked. It's still here, right? I measured this, blah, blah, blah. The cloud fractal, same story, below the cloud for years, broke up. This is a failed cloud breakout, right? It didn't continue. It didn't continue. That doesn't mean it's not going to potentially pull up. But if you're looking for like, okay, what does a stop loss on alts look like based on the cloud? It's this, it's Pfizer, it's platinum. This is what you don't want to see. You don't want to see something breaking out and then not going anywhere. So it's a big warning sign into December or January. What was the last one? There was one more. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I was going to talk about PayPal. PayPal did not reverse. Same fractal as ARC. Same fractal as a lot of stuff, right? This is what you want. You don't want a straight candle to infinity. You just want slow uptick, right? Slow uptick. The difference between PayPal and Pfizer is PayPal has held above the cloud. It is trying to break up continuously. Zoom is another one. It is what you want to see. This is what we want to see. If you're cloud trend trader people, just continuous ticking, higher, higher, higher. Great, love it. Peloton is another one. So when you're looking at alts, if stuff starts to break down, that is not where you want to be. For me, not where I want to be. Not where I want to be. All right, SUI. It looks fine. This could be a cup and handle. You've got people saying SUI is going to go to 200 or something. I don't know, right? I don't know. You could measure this, give it a target, say it's going to go to 10. 10 would be generous. Maybe this is a cup and handle, right? Something like this. I don't hate it. You know, I can't say I like the BTC cup and handle on the weekly and then say on the daily on SUI, I don't like this cup and handle. It's there. It's certainly there. It measures to at least 5. I just think on a relative basis, you're either probably spray and praying on a bunch of alts, or you're kind of concentrating on your favorite fundamental stories, or you are maybe smartly moving into some stuff broadly, but not spray and praying. Pepe, the meme stuff, has started to wake up. It is also back above the cloud for the first time in a long time. We can take a look at SHIB. Also back above the cloud, right? This does not look impressive here. Where is the puck going? Where is the puck going? That's what you got to ask yourself. I think this is a great case for a multi-month bottom. In this case, an inverted head and shoulders. The target is 40% to 80% higher. We'll see if we get that, but I'm ready for it. It looks good. I think whiff looks less good to me. It looks okay, but SHIB to me looks ready. Doge looked ready. It moved. So those look good. Ripple to me would be one that isn't working right now. It's not really doing anything. It's still flat. It's not making highs. That's just my read. A lot of people asking about LTC. I agree. On the daily, LTC looks good. Daily cloud, you can even imagine some sort of bottom thing here. Here's your neckline of your head and shoulders. Sure. I think more importantly, it has survived this. It has survived the almost a decade support. So if I'm going to range trade anything, it's going to be this. It's going to be LTC. Not above the weekly cloud yet, but the daily does look good. Alt's starting to wake up. Does this go to 110? Does it go to 150? Does it go to 280? I don't think so. I think 200 is probably the stretch target. I think 100 is reasonable, 110, 150, but 200 would be a lot. 200, this is probably like end of cycle stuff. But yeah, like stuff's starting to wake up. It survived. It looks good on the daily. Why not? Why not? Link, somebody was asking me about Link. Same thing on the daily. What do we have? We have a bullish breakout. What more do you want? You know? What more do you want? Looks good. Someone asking about Tia. Oh boy. Fricker, I gotta be careful when I say that. Fricker always makes fun of me because I said, where are all the Tia people? I was getting so many people asking about Tia back here, and that was basically the top, right? Tia, just objectively, it's not above the cloud yet on the daily. you can always trade stuff with the intent and the assumption that it plays out, right? I don't know, right? I just assume people asking me about stuff they've been holding, in this case, since 20, right? I'm not saying whoever it is, Bruno from Twitter. I'm not saying you've been holding since 20. But if you have, you're more inclined to say, yeah, this is going to break up. This is going to be fine. This is going to work out versus waiting on this for the breakout. At the very least, wait for like 575. And, that's not a big move from here. But it's more of a confirmation. This is just like a probability game, a confidence conviction play. Because again, there's a lot of stuff that's we have Bitcoin pushing all-time highs, and then we have stuff like this that's just sitting, right? It's just sitting here, flat. So it depends on your time horizon. It depends on how willing you are to eat opportunity cost, basically. TK cross or in cloud for exit. I use both. I mean, look at Tia, right? Where on this chart did Tia tell you to get the heck out of this thing? Right here, 17. Is it always going to look this good? No, but we just talked about ARK. We talked about Peloton. The thing I'm not telling you about any of these charts is, guess where they told you to get out? Way up here. Way up here. Look at this thing. It is still down 93% from the exit. 93%. ARK, same thing, right? So if we go on a multi-month run and start to close in the cloud, yeah, that is not a good thing, typically. Not a good thing. On the specifically like high time frame, daily, weekly, it's got to be clean. It's got to look like this, right? It's got to be clean trend. When you lose those moving averages, you have to have the discipline to say, hopefully I was in this thing for a long time, in this case, a year and a half, and I'm done. I'm not going to look at it again for a long time. You have to give this time to digest, right? You also have to read the room and say what's going on in the economy, what's going on with everything else. But that's what I'd be watching for on everything. Zoom, Peloton, ARK, GME. Here's a great one, right? I'm never going to take this trade. I'm just telling you that right now. But this chart looks phenomenal because it's in the cloud and it's held flat for 6 months. I'm not taking this trade, but it looks great. MSTR. Oh, there's Fricker. What's up, man? MSTR versus BT. I like a little bit of both, MSTR and BITU. I've held BITU longer with a slightly bigger position than MSTR. I'm not one of these people that thinks the premium's going to blow out on MSTR to 10 or something like that. So I'm playing that a little bit more cautiously than some people. USDT dominance. I don't know, Vince. That's a Ben Cowan question. I have no idea. This is where the cloud is confusing. Didn't we lose the cloud this cycle? We did, Dev. We absolutely did. And there were lots of people, including Jack, who said they think, Ben also said this, I think, like 6 months. We're probably not going to do anything for a while. There are these people who said, that's it. That's the top. We're going to be here for a while. If not, pull back and get bearish. They weren't wrong. But we also just had halving. So you can read this stuff in a vacuum and say, absolutely, XYZ, right? 100%. But post-halving, post-election, what do we typically see using the past? If we're a year after halving, where we typically, where is this? This one. No, sorry, this one. If we're a year after halving and we start closing in the cloud, that's a different story than closing in the cloud on halving day, to me. That's why it's a little bit different. Do I see a cup and handle on Sol? I do. I just talked about it. Somebody said win 33K. That question is literally why I put July 2025 in the whole thing, because people, the first question is what's your target, when, you know? So that's how that ended up playing out like that. Kathy dumped Square. That's probably a good thing. Ledger still not doing podcasts. Bullish. I haven't talked to Brian in a minute. I wonder what he's up to. Wouldn't 333K invalidate diminishing returns? I think so. Again, back to the power law. I don't have like original viewpoints, people. Like, I'm just looking at technicals and I'm looking at price models. To me, it seems pretty straightforward. Not that I'm talking down to anybody. It's just like, I'm not pulling these numbers out of the air. Like 333 is based on the ceiling of the power law. That's where I came up with that. You know, it doesn't get more complicated than that. Would 333 invalidate? I don't know. Sure. Like, again, this comes down to, do you think we're going to see more or less crypto stuff in 2025, in 2026, more BTC stuff, whatever, right? I think we're going to see much more, much more. Can I check on this thing? It's like, hey, again, I'm not putting this person down because I'm asking people what they want to see, but it's like, hey, Bitcoin's pulling all-time highs right now. Can you check out a poo for me? Yeah, it looks good. It's at what looks to be all-time highs. I don't know. But if you're trading off exchange listings, you know, you're kind of missing the point here, in my opinion. This did have a head and shoulders that broke down, hit the thing. It looks fine. Looks fine. But, you know, am I going to throw my net worth into a poo or BTC, right? So it's a sizing question. Best time to rotate into alts is in December. I agree, and we've seen that. The later on in the cycle, the better it is for the rotation trade, typically. What rules will you lean on to go all... No, he didn't say all in. To go in with leverage. So, I don't know, how do I want to answer this? It really depends on how you're using leverage. But if we go back to the BTC example, I like holding leverage here for as long as I can. Low leverage, like 2x, like very low. Things I'm watching for is, do we start to stall out at like 84 to 95, something like that? Trying to find, here we go. Do we get to 100, or do we kind of tap it, and, you know, what do we look like around 100? Do we get to the measured move targets of the handle, which are pretty close here ish? You know, 84, that's still quite a ways away, but relative to 300. So do you want to be eating funding if we're not moving higher, is the question you have to ask ultimately. For crypto native funding, that's like perpetual funding. For the legacy products, that's like volatility drag or OER or fees. If we look at funding here for BTC, it is very low on the long side. Just zooming out. So you will get people, I guarantee you, they will be screaming about funding. Screaming at the top of their lungs because they are bearish and they want to call the top and they think they want to be a hero. And I will be pointing you to this. What is funding today? What is funding today versus the last time we were here? It's much lower. What did funding look like in 2020? Funding in 2020 was like at infinity, okay? Just make this brighter. Funding in 2020 was at infinity. This is aggregate funding. So is it better to be leveraged here when funding is low and we have room to run? Or is it better to be leveraged after the move when funding's at infinity, right? That's what you have to think about. There's always going to be a cost to leverage. So we just broke out of the weekly. What do you think, right? I think this is good for leverage, for low leverage. For maybe even lower time frame, higher leverage stuff, I like to see a better chart pattern or something. The issue here is this: it's just been very, very choppy on the daily to have like conviction of anything. Even here where I'm talking about this like broadening wedge thing, like I wouldn't go leveraged up here, not yet. For me, like a 5x plus position. Where I did use a lot of leverage was down here. Held it for a while. I haven't really used a high leverage position maybe since like back here. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough because you're putting yourself on a clock, plus you have to be right? Otherwise you just get burned from funding and obviously the playing the wrong direction. So give yourself time for price to move. Do you always maintain a cash position? Am I ever fully deployed? Yeah, I'm not fully deployed now, but I'm getting there, definitely. I'm like 90% plus in the personal account deployed. I talked about a poo. What else we got here? LTC and XMR all-time high targets, then got back to Goblin Town. Yeah, a lot of these older alts that people who have been here for multiple cycles, you know, they think this has to go. This alt has to go up because it always has, right? And not necessarily. Yeah, LTC, BTC. Not great. It has a bull div, sort of, but that's got to be close to an all-time low for LTC, BTC. So that's the struggle. These charts, to me, keep sizing on alts low because this looks awful, objectively. You can twist yourself in a pretzel and say, oh, this is oversold, this is going to bounce soon, this is a bottom. Okay, like, yeah, go ahead, guess. You could have said that on ETH BTC a million times. But this is a reason not to go all in LTC, right? Yeah, Sol's got a cup and handle. If it looks like a cup and handle, it's probably a cup and handle. Another one I haven't mentioned is Sol ETH. Sol ETH on, I guess Kraken just listed this. Sol ETH to me is like Bitcoin dominance. You can say it's kind of parabolic, it's kind of overbought, it's maybe a rising wedge, but objectively it is bullish. Period, right? If we look at the longer term chart, I thought I had, at one point I wrote on one of these charts, this does not look bearish to me. This favors Sol heavily. Does that guarantee Sol's going to outperform? I don't know. But the technicals look very good here for Sol. They just do. Still. they still do. Yeah, Dev, I use slightly different settings for legacy versus crypto. Could I go over hood? Yeah, I guess before that, is there any other alt? I don't think so. I mean, some of this stuff like Matic is bouncing because it's just been down. And this is where people get trapped. Like, it could be a similar situation as August. It's like, oh my God, this is it, bros. Matic is the one, man. And then it just, you know, people move on. So what you always want to see is the cloud on your side. For me, on the daily, Doge is the perfect example because it was early. It was before everything else. It had Elon/election on its side, right? This is what you're looking for me, as a trend trader cloud person. I am not here to buy Matic now. I'm waiting. I'm not here to buy TIA now. I'm waiting. That's just me. That's just me. So anything that looks like it is above the cloud for the first time in a long time, ETH looks pretty good. Sure, why not? Sure, why not? Yeah, we talked about ARK. ARK looks good. It's above the weekly cloud. It looks fine. Link I talked about, it's above the daily cloud. Looks fine. This is why, you know, you don't really need to ask me. I'm glad you are, but I'm just saying, like, this is the type of thing I like. So if you know what the cloud is telling you, that's more important than what I think, because I'm just telling you what the cloud's telling me. Bullish Kumo twist, bullish TK cross, bullish Kumo breakout. Love it. Sure, Dev. You could say the same about dominance. You could say the same about a lot of stuff. Then trade ETH instead of Sol, right? I'm not going to say that this is definitely a rising wedge. So Sol is the one, or ETH is the one. I don't know why my notes aren't on here, but at some point I did a bunch of somewhere. There's something. Talked about a ascending triangle breaking up. I would use these relative pairs as a gauge if you're trying to make a decision. If I have $1,000 and I'm trying to decide, do I want Sol or ETH? If I'm bullish on Sol, but I'm not sure, then maybe your allocation is like 70-30 Sol ETH or 60-40 Sol ETH, right? I don't know. If Sol breaks 200, this chart's going to look much better than ETH. Thanks, Hellinga. All right, I think that's it on the alt side. And the last one I'll mention, I guess, is PYTH, Pith. I always got to be careful. This one I like because it's above the cloud. It's been flat for a good long while. Looks good. Looks good. Rune, kind of the same thing. Doesn't look super impressive, but it's above the cloud. Sure. Why not? Why not? Right? Why not? Why not? Now is a better time to take a stab at this stuff than it has been since March, honestly. Since March. And hey, that makes sense. BTC topped in March. BTC went sideways. Alt sold off. BTC's breaking out now. Alts are breaking out now. Okay, here we go. All right, legacy. Legacy. MSTR is probably the most important thing people ask me about. Here's my take on MSTR. I want him to smash down the premium forever and always. The premium is at let's say it's at 3. It's like 2.8 or something. I want him to get in there and smash it down and buy BTC. That's what he said he's going to do. So you got that going on. Okay. So is it underperforming today because of that? Maybe. If you're on your deserted island and you know nothing about Sailor, or you're just looking at technicals, you don't know what chart this is. Let me turn on fractals, sorry. This has been bullish since 150 recently. Another great example. What are you looking for on alts? You're looking for this. People keep asking me. Not that I'm angry at them. It's just, it's never different. It's always the same. You're always looking for this right there. You're looking for this day on anything. It could be chop. It could go nowhere. It could stop you out. That's not the point. The point is, what does the trend say? The trend says this is a potential beginning of a bullish trend. Okay, great. So I'm in. Now what? Now we hold it. What's our trailing stop loss? Williams fractals. Those appear when you get a low on the trended journey. We'll put it like that. Thus far, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trailing stop loss fractals since October. Currently, your trailing stop loss is 220. It's told you to stay in the whole time. Has the cloud told you to get out? No. No bearish cross in the cloud. We're not in the cloud. You can say we're overbought. That's fair. You could say we're far above the Kijun. That's fair. But I've got MSTR. I'm still holding it. No, Rich, I haven't gone over hood yet, but I will. So this looks good. I like somewhere up here if it doesn't hit the trailing stop loss. But MSTR looks good. Coin, someone was asking me about this. Coin was tough because it had this. It had this. This was the day before the election, right? So then it broke out up here. So you really had to buy this if you were waiting for the breakout. You had to buy this on the open if you're being a good trader and following the breakout rules. So this is an example, at least in legacy, of like, okay, we have the right shoulder mostly there on November 5th. Should I start buying, right? That's what I'd be asking myself. I didn't touch this thing, but what I did touch is CleanSpark, which might still be halted. Looks like it is still halted. Similar setup, Bitcoin miner. The pattern looks good, right? We can try to nitpick this and say, oh man, the volume, Josh, what about the volume? The volume, it doesn't fit the volume profile. That's fine. If you don't like it, you don't have to trade it or size it down, but the pattern is definitely there. Anyway. Yeah, Dev, it's 1852, 104. Here you go. 1852, 104, 26. Boom. So I like CleanSpark. I like Coin. You could say it's regulatory. You could say, you can make up all sorts of reasons why Coin is doing well. Sure, but it was bullish it was officially bullish again at 210. Looks good. Along with Coin, there's a lot of fintech stuff that's kind of waking up. PayPal, I looked at, looks great. Hood, someone keeps asking me about. I don't know, I never know people's entries, right? So it's different for everybody. But if we're looking at the daily, this thing has been very choppy. It recently exited the cloud on 9/11, and it's been up only, basically. Pulled back a little bit, but I don't think there's anything to be worried about with Hood. It looks fine. Do you think there's going to be more or less trading in 2025? Same thing with Coin, same thing with Kraken. Like all these exchanges, they look good. They look good. I don't know. Like, you know, use the same trailing stop loss rules as everything else. The other one was Toast. Toast had a huge move today. It looks great. It's way late on the entry, but 25 was the entry. Toast looks good. Nicholas, I actually think the energy sector is going to drill themselves out of business because they don't have self-control. One thing about a cartel is they try to stabilize prices, you know, like OPEC. If you think about OPEC versus the United States, if we're just drilling because there's oil and because we can, that's going to drive prices much, much lower. What's up, Dad? DXY. DXY has been kind of an enigma, but it has been bullish. Hasn't affected us on the crypto side, but it looks good. It looks good. Where do we want to go with legacy? Miners really quick. I think all the miners look fine for the most part. WGMI, bullish, looks fine. It's a question of how bullish are you BTC? I view anything that isn't BTC basically as leverage, basically as beta. That includes alts, that includes miners, that includes MSTR, that includes Ethereum. Okay, so if you're bullish BTC, great. Everything else should be bullish. If it's not bullish, it's not working. If it's not working, it's not for me. Miners look good. Core's fine. It's at all-time highs. Wolf pushing. Looks good. CleanSpark halted, but still looks good. IREN looks fine. It's above the cloud. That's what we like to see. Marathon, kind of doing nothing. Marathon and Riot, probably the ones to avoid for me, but sure. You know, if the technicals look good, why not? Bitfarms also just kind of flat here. Do you want to trade the leaders or the laggards? That's up to you. Cypher looks great. Looks really good. Someone kept asking me about BTBT. It looks good. You know, I don't know. I'm only looking at what you're looking at for trend. It looks like it's ready to break out. It looks like it's got multiple bottom fractals here going all the way back to May 2023. You can, of course, measure these in BTC. This doesn't look great against BTC, but it's not bearish. Looks better than ETH BTC. Back here, you had a pretty clean inverted head and shoulders. So, yeah, they look good, though. They look fine. HUT, highs, looks fine, right? I don't think you have to, like, play 3D chess with this and say, oh, man, this one looks like it's here versus this one. Like, study the company, see if you like the management, the fundamentals, and, you know, that's all I do. Do we need to talk about Mag 7? I guess Tesla. Tesla is probably the best week it's had in a long, long time. It is all over the place. This is clearly based on Elon and Trump's relationship in the election, but it's certainly bullish. Certainly bullish. Uber, someone asked about, looks not great, kind of uninspired, flat. Might be a cut based on the TK cross there on the daily. Depends, you know, if it's not working, it's probably a sign. If we plot this against BTC, you know, it's like, do I want to be an Uber or IBIT? Do we want to be an Uber or BITU, right? Or MSTR? So it doesn't look good for Uber. Doesn't look good for Uber. The UK, okay, maybe we can look at the Euro. Euro is kind of just ranging. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't know. Palantir. What else do people ask me about? Palantir just looks parabolic, insane. Absolutely insane chart. Oh man, Stellantis. Yeah. Um, because I'm from where I'm from, I'm very aware of Stellantis. I have it on my thing. I wouldn't want to play around with any of that stuff because again, it's not working. I think we have a natural propensity to focus on stuff we think we know and understand. Where is it on my list? There it is, STLA. I just wouldn't, again, BTC is pushing all-time highs. Do you really want to play with Stellantis? Like, no, just flat out no. It's down 55% from the highs. There's just better places to put your money, For me. Is this, oh, that's, oh, coffee, okay. Sure, right? It's like this or Stellantis. It looks good. Looks good. Probably a little late, but it looks good. Reddit. Reddit is quite high. Feels late. I don't have a great answer. I don't have a great answer on that one. Just feels late, Cart was another one. Someone who was looking at Instacart. Instacart, kind of in the wheelhouse of expected move. I don't know. Again, like this moved up 40%. BTC just broke all-time highs. Where would I rather be? People making fun of me for looking at the euro, talking about the UK. What is it, the pound? Look, we fought a war, so I didn't have to pay attention to the pound, okay? The pound doesn't look like anything I want to trade. I can tell you that much. RVN USDT. Why this chart? Sathan. Why this chart? Why this chart? It's the bottom of the range. Not for me personally. Is it objectively bearish? It is. Could it be bottoming? It could, but again, you're trading this against BTC? Like, what are we even talking about? Like, let's look at this chart. This is what you're trading against. This is your benchmark. Your measuring stick is BTC. Now, you might be looking at this thinking, oh man, this could be the bottom. It could be up. It could be up 1,000% next week. Maybe, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Hey, Karen. All good? Peace out, Blake. Because you mine it. Ah, okay. See, that makes more sense. If I mined this, I would be selling everything I get. I wouldn't even think about it. That's just me. I wouldn't stop selling it so long as I mined it. But it depends on, are you trying to recoup electricity costs? Are you just like, spec mining this? It's the same thing like LTC. If I'm an LTC miner, what am I doing here? I don't know. Do I need to pay down my electricity bill, or do I have some time? If I have some time, I'm probably optimistic. And you're of course getting the Doge. You're getting the Doge rewards along with the LTC. Ah, see, now I'm much more optimistic. He's saying he's uses solar panels to mine Ravencoin. Okay. Yeah, I would buy, if it were me, not financial advice. This is like you called into like Susie Orman or something, like telling you, pay down your debt. If it were me, I'd just be selling it into BTC. That's just me. All right, last couple here. INOQ. Okay. Is it biotech or is it energy? It looks great. Looks really good. Looks really good. I don't have anything to say. Dot, I would avoid like the plague. But Crow, excuse me. You know, it broke out, so sure, why not? I'm not using the, got the hiccups. Not using the BT, the crypto cloud, sure. It's an exchange token. I don't like exchange tokens, but quantum computing, gotcha. Yeah, that chart looks good. I have nothing to say. Aave. Aave. It looks fine. It's looked okay. It's just very choppy. I know everybody wants to get all bowled up on, that's funny, the old fractal, the old 2023 fractal. Everybody wants to get all bowled up on Aave. Aave has a history of like running like crazy. It looks okay, right? I'm not gonna knock it. It looks okay. Looks okay. Dot makes 0 sense to me. Just nothing. This is from Kraken. Sure, right? Like it's at all-time lows. Maybe it's the bottom. That's what you're hoping for. This was another one I was looking at today. Gotta find the is this it? Yeah, Filecoin. It's a sizing question. It's a confidence question. Would I be all in on Filecoin here? No. Everything else is running. Filecoin is not. Filecoin's at a multi-month low. Could be the bottom. Could be the range low. You know, you just do what you need to do. But I wouldn't be watching Filecoin or Dot or any of this stuff thinking, man, this is a Raven. This is going to run soon because Bitcoin's at all-time highs. This stuff will probably run after Bitcoin's at 100K. You know, it's not going to run, I don't think, not right now. Soul price target, yeah, 1,000 there. Boom. Boom. Everybody always wants to know targets. I think it's so funny. Just trade the trend, right? Like the trend is bullish, right? That's why we use cloud. ENA was up a lot. It looks okay. I don't know. It's not for me. Again, there's like, why are we gravitating towards this nonsense? I get it. It's a penny. We can buy 10 million of them. But yeah, it's out of the daily cloud. I like this better than TIA. I like it better than TIA. I checked Rune. It looks fine. You know, anything above the cloud, and you're trying to avoid landmines. That's it. That's it. That's all really I look at. He actually used cloud plus Williams fractals to catch IONQ around 7. That's a testimonial for you right there. Fadi, I talked about the Sol IHS. I just don't think, I must have talked about it before you asked me the first time, but yes, it's there. We can pull out the imaginary profit calculator and we can say, in 2025, Fadi is going to be rich. He will have 30 wives, 10 Lambos, 600 children. That's where the $1,000 price target comes from. Why not, right? Cup and handle. Yeah, you just have to give it time to run, but sure. All right, kimono, someone's asking me about. Is this the right one? I've got nothing to say. It looks okay. I don't know. Looks fine. Say, I don't think I've looked at yet. It's okay. It just looks okay. Just looks okay. I think going forward in the layer 1 arena, unless there's a narrative or like a previous narrative, a current narrative, a future narrative, it's going to be harder for this stuff to outperform like Sol or ETH right now. Just my 2 cents. 600 kids will be expensive, but Sol's going to be at 1,000, so he can afford that. He can afford that. Check. Is it a crypto? I don't know. All right, last one. Checks. Is this the chart? I mean, it looks fine, right? It's basically a cup and handle. Sure. Checks to $1, boys. We're gonna be rich. We're gonna be so rich. All right, that's all I got for today. Disney. Alden's asking. Disney. Last one. We'll turn off the cloud. We're just gonna use. We're gonna use the force with this one. Disney's been ranging just as long as Ripple. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. I like a trend. I like momentum. I like a chart pattern. I like a breakout. This is just sort of chop, you know? Chop. Last one, because someone asked me about XOM is another one. Sure. Like, if you have some view on energy and Trump, it looks okay. But is this going to outperform anything in crypto? No. It just isn't, right? It just isn't. That isn't to say you need to be in this versus that. It's just like, look, we can measure this against BTC. What do we think this chart looks like? Not good. Not good. Anyway, checks is RWA. Chart looks good. All right, boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, I will catch you all for Setup Sunday. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening back on the recording. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.